Evisceration, obliteration, absolute domination. And Indiana is on its way to the national championship game to take on Miami. This is College Game Day podcast. Rece Davis and Dan Wetzel. We expect that Pete Thamel will join us in just a little bit. He's working the locker room in the aftermath of Indiana's beatdown of Oregon. They'll take on Miami in Hard Rock Stadium on January 19th. Hurricanes playing on their home field. They've won 3 of their 5 national championships on their home field, albeit those were all in the Orange Bowl. Dan, we'll talk about both games. We had a thrilling fourth quarter in the Fiesta Bowl between Miami and Ole Miss, and we had an absolute bludgeoning in Atlanta. I mean, Greg McElroy and Sean McDonough made some comparisons in terms of dominance to the 2019 LSU national championship team. In terms of being dominant, I understand it. But this is a much different look to me. The LSU team with Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, all of these different guys. I'm not saying Indiana doesn't have great players. They do. They've got Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. But they do it with a surgical precision. You know what it seems like to me? It looks like somebody has started to play dynasty mode on EA Sports College Football, and they say, I'm going to make Indiana a dynasty. And they never drop the ball, and they don't get penalties, and it's an amazing thing to watch.
It really is. I mean, I watched the first play, right? And if you watch, Oregon lines up, and D'Angelo Pons is signaling to the rest of the team it's going to be a pass. Or I think he's waving above his head. I assume that's a sign for pass. And then he sits there and jumps the route, touchdown. And I was like, yeah, this game might be over right now. It was, first punch, just absolutely decked them. And it was kind of like that. They were better prepared. They were better coached, better executed. Every single thing they do. I mean, they block a punt. They didn't need, and Oregon's doing, they have a fumble when Dante Moore hits Hill when he's like back. All the normal stuff that happens in football games doesn't happen in Indiana. They're just, it's just like boom, boom, boom. I don't know. The execution is unbelievable. They block you and tackle you to death. They just execute. They're just ready. The guys just make plays. I'm not really adding a whole lot here, but I assume everyone listening to this watched the game. Not really sure what to tell you. They're just dynasty mode is pretty good. It's like they're just playing it over and over and over again. I'll say this. I want to apologize to the University of Alabama and Kalen DeBoer. Like we all spent a week saying, man, Alabama was terrible. Alabama got blown off the field at the Rose Bowl. Alabama, what is wrong with Alabama? I'll tell you what was wrong. They had to play Indiana. I mean, that's, I'm not saying Alabama's great, but hey, it was only 38-3. I mean, you got to go with something. I said that last week. I said, maybe Indiana blows everyone else out, and we look back on that performance and say, well, wasn't good, but wasn't necessarily cataclysmic as we all thought. Well, another one down and another cataclysmic, opponent standing around staring into space. So we'll see what Miami can do against Indiana. But thus far, other than Ohio State in that Big Ten title game, there just really hasn't been a whole lot of opposition going up against Indiana. Maybe that Penn State game. I mean, there's been some moments, but what you're seeing right now is a full-on efficiency bit. And I agree. It's not LSU. This is not 2001 Miami or something like that. But it because just the way the game's played, the parity that is out there, the talent dispersion that makes Indiana good. But when you watch them, they look like one of those teams, an old Nebraska team or whatever. Just a phenomenal performance tonight.
The good news for Mario Cristobal is that he doesn't have to play Oregon, answer all the questions that would inevitably come up with a long waiting period about the messy exit there, what that was like when he left. But also the bad news for Mario Cristobal is that he doesn't get to play Oregon. I mean, I don't know. I always hate it, Dan, when people say, boy, that's a team you don't want to play. And I realize it's semantics. If you're a competitor, you want to play the best because you want the opportunity to beat the best. And I realize I'm splitting some hairs here. But I mean, this is a Herculean undertaking if Indiana is going to be able to perform at this level again. I mean, that was the one thing I wondered coming into the Oregon game. They played so well. And look, two things can be true. Oregon certainly did not play its best. Alabama certainly did not play its best. A lot of that was because of Indiana. But coming into this one, I was like, can they do that again? Well, they did. And in a lot of ways, it might have been better tonight than it even was in the Rose Bowl. And it was brilliant in the Rose Bowl. So that is the one thing you wonder. I do think that Miami, the matchup for Miami is pretty good because they're really good on the lines of scrimmage. We'll have plenty of time to get to that. But boy, I mean, 2 games in a row in the playoff, and Fernando Mendoza throws more touchdown passes than incompletions. That, I mean, how does that happen?
I'm looking at the box score. Okay, this game just ended. We're taping this, right? I'm looking at the box score. And I mean, if I said, hey, Mendoza's only going to throw for 177 yards tonight. Oh, really? Well, he's 17 for 20 with 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. All right. No one's going to rush for more than 63 yards. No individual Indiana. Black's going to rush for 63. Oh, really? Well, they got 185 overall because they had, all these guys rush. No one's going to catch more yards than 75 yards. It's just this. They just throw committees at you. It's just another guy. It's another guy. Mendoza's accuracy is ridiculous. Again, I think he was on with you and Scott Van Pelt, and he was just saying, I just need to be efficient. And I can't remember what the other one was, but can't be a whole lot more efficient than 17 for 20 with 5 touchdowns. No. He's scoring a touchdown on every 4th throw. Not bad.
No. He's a remarkable guy. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to be around him. I had.
When does he run for president? And is he? I mean, I know he's a little older. Is he ready for that yet? Like, is he eligible? Sounds like a presidential candidate.
After a 15-year NFL career, he'll be old enough, I guess. But
he's got better things to do than be the president.
Yeah, I don't doubt him at all. And I just remember meeting him at the Friday walkthrough before ironically, the game against Miami last year when he was playing for Cal. And he struck you as a confident guy, but he's unassuming. He's really smart. He does definitely know what synergy means. So he's got a little bit of a sense of humor. He's one of the guys. But his improvement, he was a really good player at Cal, really good player. But the way that they've been able to elevate him, you can say it's people around him, but I think it's just, it's Mike Shanahan, it's Chandler Whitmer, their quarterback coach, and it's certainly the culture and the demands that Cignetti puts on him to, play at a very high level, and really their entire team. And I think the other thing, Dan, that they've really mastered in the portal is they've gotten older guys, but older guys who know that they need to do it this way in order to have success for their team, in order to have success for themselves. They don't come in, just in a prima donna way like an older guy might say, and I've got to get mine before I go to the league. They have a lot of guys who understand if I'm going to take that next step, or if I'm even just going to maximize my college experience, I need to get on the bus. And they're all on the bus. And I think that's a rare thing. Cignetti's a great coach. Maybe he'll continue doing this for the next 10, 12 years. I don't know. But I also think that this is a perfect group of guys for him in this moment. And they are fully soaking it in. And this atmosphere in the stadium with all of the Indiana fans who have not yet reached that stage of where they expect these things to happen, and they are just basking in the glory of it happening, is a really cool phenomenon to watch. Just the unbridled joy, no worry yet. Like, at Ohio State or Michigan or Alabama or whatever, they might be really confident, but there's also that little nagging dread of, what if we mess it up? It's going to be catastrophic. Oh, it'll be wildly disappointing if Indiana, to their fans, if they don't. But they're going to worry about that later. Right now, they're going to bask in the fact that once again, they've just won the biggest game in school history again. And it's really a cool thing to watch, just the appreciation and, the lack of entitlement, among the fan base. It'll come because we're all human. It happens. But if they keep winning, it'll happen. But it's not right now, and it's a really neat thing to see.
Yeah, well, I live in Big Ten country, and I've got neighbors and friends and nephews and all sorts of Indiana. A lot of Indiana in my life, and they've just been kind of shuffling around for the last quarter century, mumbling about Bob Knight and nothing about football. And now it's a state of it's just bliss. They're just drunk on this magical ride, and they can't even believe it. It is one of the best deals. Let me say this about Cignetti and the portal, and Cignetti to me is just unbelievably fascinating. First off, I feel like we were all robbed that it took to 60 years old before the guy got a job. In like what was going on that nobody could identify this guy as a head coach in FCS football until 4 years ago? Was it? I don't know, a little longer than that. 5. How many years is he, James?
James
Whatever.
Madison.
James Madison. We got search firms. We got agents, committee. I mean, there's an entire industry designed to tell these ADs who to hire. How did every one of them miss on Curt Cignetti? I mean, what this? But here's the thing. I think it's what makes him so great, and I think what makes him so great in the portal. Nobody gave him a chance. He's kind of angry about it. He's just intense about everything, but I'm going to sling this over. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, screw you. I'm here now. We're winning. You come here now, we win. And he finds the guys that sit there and say the same thing, whether they're coming with them from James Madison or Old Dominion or whatever. If they're the Cal trade, he finds the guy that's gonna fit his mentality of like, yeah, we're here now. You didn't like us, you didn't recruit us, you didn't rank us with a ton of stars, you didn't invite us to this camp. Oh, Ohio State, you didn't want us. I grew up a mile from the University of Miami. You didn't want me. So what? They're not all angry. I like Fernando Mendoza is upset or angry. But like, yeah, okay, we're here now. We're better than you. And I think that he finds those guys and he gets the whole thing together. And he did it last year with the whole, we're all transferring up. We're all got those guys with the chip on his shoulder, but the chip's still there. And he's just getting those. He finds them, gets them, boom, here we go. And that's why I think they work so hard. They bond so hard. They seem to take this stuff so seriously. They're so well prepared in every facet of the game.
From watching them and from your experience, how immune do you think they will be to not just the pressure of the national championship? And I touched on it with Fernando a little bit. He's going back to Miami, grew up a Canes fan. His dad played with Mario Cristobal in high school, went to high school there. There are a number of other guys, as he mentioned on the stage in the trophy ceremony, who are from South Florida, or from the greater Miami area. And all of that, how immune do you think they are? Because the flip side of this, from what we saw the night before, is that Cristobal hates the phrase "the U is back" because he wants to talk about what he's going to make it now, but they are back on the championship stage. They have a lot riding on this as well. They may have been the last team in the field as an at-large, but they don't feel like, they're Miami. They don't feel like they're a Cinderella story. So it's not as if they're just some bit actor in Indiana's screenplay. They want to be the main character too. So how immune do you think Indiana is, given what you've seen, what you know about them, what you perceive from Cignetti, to, not really getting swallowed up by the moment, but almost going a little too far in the things you're talking about? You didn't want me. And here are the people who really did want me, the people in my backyard, the people I really need to prove it to. I get the feeling that I don't know if anyone's immune. I get the feeling they can handle it. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I think they can handle it too. And also, let's be clear. I was talking out of high school. Miami wanted for Mendoza last out of the portal, and they offered him more money reportedly than he got in Indiana.
Out of the portal, yes. Not when he was committed to Yale, though.
But No, not when he was committed to Yale. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. I mean, he says I used to go over and play, pick up basketball on the campus.
Yeah.
They didn't want him then, but they did want him. And this is like, just on a side note, imagine being Mario Cristobal and you're like, my high school teammate's son, who grew up a mile away. I wasn't here. When he was going to Yale. I offer him more money, and he still says no. And now, there he is. I got to deal with this guy. Like, what a circle of life. Like, you're angry at your high school buddy now. Like, did you really have to have a guy that good? Did you have to go to Indiana if he wasn't going to come to me? No, he chose Indiana, and I think that's part of it. They thought the developmental path maybe was better at Indiana, whatever. Certainly nothing against the developmental path at Miami, but it's working. He's won the Heisman. He's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. Can't develop a whole lot better than that. Their team's 15-0. Got a chance to be the first 16-0 team in the history of college football, which is crazy. And it's not, and they're doing it with a whole playoff. But I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think this team is locked in. This is the mentality of this team. They've lost 2 games in 2 years. I mean, it's a different team, so not all the guys are on it, but they've lost 2 games. They lost to Ohio State and Notre Dame last year. Those 2 played for the title. Now they're going to play for the title. I don't think anything distracts it. Can Miami beat them? Sure. But I wouldn't expect that it's Indiana getting down there and all of a sudden getting all sassy and, thinking they got this thing won.
Yeah, I don't either. We can come back to this, certainly come back to this game. Let's talk a little bit about what happened in Glendale with Miami and Ole Miss. I mean, a game that, frankly, Miami should have had put away quite earlier than it did. There were some questionable strategic decisions. They certainly made a multitude of errors in terms of penalties that aided Ole Miss and kind of kept Ole Miss in the game. And then to Ole Miss's credit, particularly Trinidad Chambliss, he got a little confidence, got a little momentum, and they had Miami on the ropes. I think that there are many times over the course of Mario Cristobal's career, whether it be at Oregon or at Miami, that was sort of the albatross type game. You make enough miscues, mistakes, blown assignments, penalties at the exact wrong time to blow the game. And yet they didn't. They drove down the field. Carson Beck, was really outstanding on that final drive. And it was a really big moment, I think, for Miami, not only because they made the national championship game, but they didn't lose the game the way for the last 20 years they've kind of lost big games when they've been put in that situation.
Yeah, they dominated the game, but they kept letting Ole Miss stay in it. I mean, the time of possession, they had 42 minutes. There were, I think, 4 dropped interceptions or potential interceptions that they didn't get. Mm-hmm. Not all of them are drops necessarily. Some really dumb penalties. Mm-hmm. It reminded me of the A&M game. I thought they should have scored about 24, 28 points against A&M and won that game handily. Instead, they're down to the last minute, but then they win it. They pull it out, down to the last minute. It was tight. One of my favorite scenes of that whole thing was when one of the assistants tried to hug Mario Cristobal when there's 18 seconds left in the game. And Cristobal was like ready to fire him on the spot. I don't know if you saw that visual. We tried to hug him after they took the lead. And it was like, this game is not over. Have you seen this Trinidad Chambliss? And sure enough, it was not over until the final non-flag get thrown or whatever. I felt the football gods owed Miami a pass interference call controversy. So, maybe they cashed that ticket in from a long time ago. That one was far more painful than this one. But when they run the ball, they're kind of unbeatable. And then they started throwing, they got away from it. That's the concern with Miami. They're not maxing out. It's also the good side, because if they do put it all together and they do play that perfect game, there's another gear here. They're not Indiana. I don't know. They need to play any better. I don't know if you can play college football better than Indiana played college football last 2 weeks. So this is what you're going to get. I don't know that there's another level there to hit. Miami is going to need to play an incredible game to beat Indiana. Everybody would need to play an incredible game to beat Indiana. But that is there. They need Beck to be really good. They need to cut the mistakes. They need to be opportunistic on defense and all those things. They have allowed teams to stay in. But this Hurricane team are a bunch of winners. They make plays when they have to. Carson Beck, there's times you're watching him and you're like, gosh, it's just not all there. And then that last drive, he was phenomenal. He was patient. He converted all these third downs. He didn't worry about the clock. He just ran a great 75. What was it? 11 plays, 75 yards. Like, that is hard to do. Young quarterbacks, particularly college quarterbacks, they force a pass. They think they got to make I got to go up top right here. I got to win the game right now. Make a play. If I don't like comparing college to pros. We watch the great pro quarterbacks. That's how we see guys with experience. They aren't worried. Oh, it's 31 seconds left. Yeah, I got like 4 more plays. No problem. We got this, right? They don't panic.
Yeah.
And that was what Beck was doing. So there's these times when he's just phenomenal. And if he does that, yeah, they got a chance. But I got to give credit to Miami for winning these games. I mean, you win the game. They make clutch plays. They get it done. You don't ask how. You ask how many.
Especially now. And I'm a big believer that performance, once you get into a tournament or a playoff, doesn't validate or invalidate your selection. I mean, Miami was deserving to get in, the last at-large team in. But, Saban has said it. Heck, I had them ranked number 1. I thought they were the best team I'd seen until they had that midseason stumble. They're dangerous. I don't think they have to play out of their minds to beat Indiana. I think they just have to play cleanly. And that's what the problem has been. When they lost to Louisville and SMU, they didn't play clean football. They put themselves in harm's way against both Texas A&M and Ole Miss because they didn't play clean football. But against Ohio State, there was not an accepted penalty against them, which was, a bit unusual. They played cleanly and they beat an excellent Ohio State team that, based on what we've seen from Indiana, might well be the second or third best team in the country. I guess, they have to be no better than third based on Miami beating them. So I don't think they have to play out of their minds. They just have to avoid the out-of-body experience mistakes. If they can do that, they'll match up very well because they probably have more NFL players, or at least more. Indiana's going to have a lot of guys playing in the NFL. More guys drafted in higher positions, I would think, over the course of their careers than Indiana does. So I think Indiana's the best functioning unit. I think they're the better team. I think they should be favored to win the game. I would likely pick them to win the game because I trust that they're going to play a clean game more than I do Miami right now. But Miami's got the talent and the strength on the lines of scrimmage to win the game. And I think it's going to be a great national championship matchup. The storylines are tremendous. Mendoza, another shot against Miami. I went back and looked up, Dan, the game that he played against Miami last year for Cal. And he had a scramble on a third down play inside 2 minutes. And there was a clear targeting call on or targeting foul that was not called on Wesley Basaint. And they went back and looked at it and didn't call targeting. Now, they could not have kneeled it out because Miami still had timeouts, but it would have been a first down into Miami territory. It would have been 3 more plays for Cal, and Miami would have gotten the ball back probably at best case scenario, 45 seconds, somewhere in there. Instead, they had well over a minute. They got the ball in a little bit better field position. They had Cam Ward, and they came back and they won the game. Now, it was also true that Cal had been up in that game 35-10 and sort of squandered the lead. But that one stung Mendoza because he had played so well. It meant so much to him to play against Miami, and now here he is with another opportunity to beat the hometown team, and this time for a national championship. The storylines are tremendous. Cignetti, as you've mentioned, Cristobal really changing the perception of his career, and kind of becoming this oddly endearing guest on our shows. It's like he and Scott Van Pelt had great moments after that game, and then he was funny on our show tonight when he was kind of going back at Saban. So it's a really, there's so many storylines in this for sure. How do you think the perfect seasons compare? It's Indiana's last perfect basketball season. You mentioned earlier they could do something historic in terms of going 16-0. Had a Clemson team go 15-0, but I think there wasn't an old Yale team like when they used to play 5 times a week or
did
something.
They go
that might have.
16-0?
I might have, but nobody
I don't
in
think
real
they might have
modern
gone
football.
15. Yeah, played
Yeah,
like
maybe
New
so.
Haven
Maybe
High
it was
School.
15. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, this is pretty for guys who appreciate the history as we do. If you have Indiana with the greatest, or at least the most recent greatest season in college basketball history in terms of perfection, and then they do something unprecedented in football, I mean, they sort of have the market cornered, at least for the time being, on all of this.
They would. And especially if they do it with a big margin. I mean, if you win all 3 of your playoff games by a big margin, we'll see. I mean, I think spread 7.5 it opened, so they're expecting a pretty good thing. I don't think that will happen, but yeah, for Indiana, yeah, it's amazing. That would be amazing for their athletic department. I mean, this whole storyline, it's completely improbable. I was on this show. We were doing the show after the Oregon game, and I think I said that moment, or maybe it was after Illinois. I think it was after they just house Illinois. They had 35 in the first half, and Cignetti was angry in the halftime interview, I remember, about something. We need to score more points. I said it was like what I always say, he talks like a T-shirt, right? He's like a T-shirt slogan. Like you can just the guy making the T-shirts of his quotes. The interview was, "Coach, what are you looking to do in the second half? They're up 34-0. He score points." He's all angry.
Yeah.
I said, I think I was on here. I go, I don't think they can win the national title, but maybe they can. Like, is Indiana, like, even then, you're still like just not believing what you're seeing. So for them to put this together, when I wasn't paying any attention or much alive when Bob and I was doing the 32-0, but that's a different. But I'm sure that was kind of a buildup. I think they were in the Final Four the year before and had gotten there. This is just out. He has mastered the new era of college football and done it in a spectacular fashion. Say one more thing about Miami though, and you were talking about Cristobal. Like, this is the play in the trenches is just incredible for Miami, and that's why I think you're always going to have a chance if you can win the line of scrimmage, and we will see if they can do it against Indiana. But it's such a simple formula. They just grinded it out. Mark Fletcher, 133 yards the other night, and I think his longest run was 19. They just grind. I think they averaged only like 3.7 yards a carry in the game, but they controlled it. 11 of 19 on third down, 2 and 2 on fourth down. They just were paper cutting them, beating them down. And I really think in that last play where the last play for Miami on offense when Beck ran it in, you just saw the Ole Miss defensive line was just completely gassed out. It was just like, and then the defense is another thing. And I've never really seen a player run in to win a game. And he was like at the 5-yard line, he's looking up in the stands, like cheering with his fans. It was pretty crazy just how much he had that thing done. But that's going to be the key for Miami and keeping it close. But this is the Mario Cristobal has finally, I think when he taught, so everyone wants to say is the U back, and he just hates the question. And I think it's smart. He's not trying to bring the U back. He's building a new U, and it's now I sound like a T-shirt slogan. He's doesn't. It's not about 20.
You better trademark that or copyright it or whatever.
It's a different system. It's not going to be 2001 Miami Hurricanes. You can't have teams like that anymore. He's not going to probably win, 4 titles in I think 8 or 9 years that they did. It's different. It's an offensive lineman's Miami, right? He was a great he won 2 national titles as a player. We're going to grind it out. We're going to have the best. We're winning in the trenches. They invested a lot in Beck and he has come through in some moments. Imagine if they had Mendoza. I mean, geez. But this is about just violence. It's about aggression. It's about physicality. It's about wearing you out. It doesn't have to be pretty. We'll get pretty guys. We'll have Malachi Tony or something like that and run a big play, but we're smashing you in the face and we're going after it. So that to me, it's a very old school Nick Saban program before they really had all the wide receivers and everything. That's what he's done. It's not the U isn't back. This is the U that we have at this point.
And it's a good one. The theme of the U, the building of the new U, of Indiana, building a new Indiana. You have these themes and things that kind of become a thing based on performance. When you look on the other side, is it fair to say that Oregon might have a thing right now? I mean, they've gotten, I know they won a game, but I mean, won a couple, but they got housed in their game tonight. They got drilled in the Rose Bowl by the great Ohio State team. Now, maybe this is going to fall into what you said earlier in the podcast, and it's just going to be that they ran into two juggernaut buzzsaws, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. But, I mean, they've gotten drilled on big stages a couple of times now. Is it a thing or just the occasional juggernaut you run into in sports, and it's just going to happen to you every now and then? It just happened to have happened to them 2 years in a row.
I think this is going to be life in the playoff. I think in the old days, you'd lose, you wouldn't be in contention in the middle of the season, and that would carry its own burden, right? Clearly, but you could end the year and win a bowl game, and everyone was happy, right? Oh, we look pretty good, and some guy hands you a trophy, and you feel now you're going to lose. And look, this is again, I don't like bringing the NFL into it, but that's how it works in the NFL, right? What was it? They just fired John Harbaugh, averaged 10 wins a season for 18 years because, well, you only won one Super Bowl, and you weren't getting there, and so there's no just making the playoff. A lot of these coaches want to get a bigger playoff because they think it'll help their job security. It won't. This is what people they're gonna remember, that final game. No one's giving Kalen DeBoer any credit for winning a game this year at Alabama. They all are going to remember is Indiana and Oregon. You beat James Madison and a Texas Tech team that just couldn't do anything on offense, and then you stepped into the real ring and you got smacked pretty hard. I don't think it's a big problem. I think Dan Lanning's a terrific coach. He's a young coach. His program's still going super strong. I mean, it's what everybody wants, but obviously you finished this way 2 years in a row. It's a long flight back to Eugene, and you got to keep evaluating and saying, what don't we have? What aren't we doing so that we can physically compete with the cream of the crop of the Big Ten? Now, look, Oregon beat Ohio State a year ago in the regular season, and then got crushed in the rematch. But, I don't know. Can you hit that gear? What is it? They certainly didn't have it tonight against Indiana.
That's a point I brought up in the pregame that I hadn't thought of until just now. This was the sixth rematch in playoff history, even dating back to the 4 team. And Indiana's the first one to sweep against another power conference opponent. Ole Miss swept Tulane, probably a little bit different, but every other rematch had been, won by the team that lost the first meeting. And Indiana not only swept, they did so more emphatically, although they won one on the road at Autzen, and then they have this home away from home in Atlanta with this crowd. I doubt, in fact, I know they're not going to be able to take over Miami Stadium like that, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it. I don't know. There'll be a lot of corporate stuff. I know probably 60-40 split, maybe even closer to 50-50. Indiana fans are going to find a way to get those tickets. I would think secondary market will be active for them.
Bless you if you own some tickets that you just don't want to use. I'll just say that you have done the NVIDIA stock purchase of the secondary market for college football. Good Lord. I mean, this is the dream. You got Miami guy, Miami bandwagon guy is the best because he's got disposable income. He's calling right now. Where do I, do we have valet for the Ferrari when I pull up? Those guys, any amount of money just to be seen. I mean, this is nothing better than bandwagon Miami guy. They got the best parties. They got the best everything. Like my man Nevin Shapiro is getting to this game. There ain't gonna be any question about that. So they're not getting. Then you've got this massive university and this fan base that just realized they were fans. And it's like, not only are you so fired up to go, it's like 2-3 brother. We got to take dad. He graduated in 63. We got, he had that IU flag flapping in the wing in our farm outside of Muncie. Like there's no amount of money you're not going to spend to be at this thing. Oh my goodness. The ticket guys are just, bless you if you are a ticket guy. You're having a great 2026 with this little bit. It's going to be wild. I would you won't keep Indiana out, but the Hurricane guys are going to be there too, and they're not looking to sell. So it's going to be pretty penny right there, no question.
One of the things I've enjoyed
break down the fan base as well.
Indiana fans at the Rose Bowl. I ran into a guy. Yeah, it's the guy. I run into this guy at the Rose Bowl, and he's with his son. His son's probably 8-9 years old, and he was talking about having gone to the Big Ten championship game, and afterwards I might have told this story on the pod. They're getting a bite to eat and in a drive-thru, I guess, before they drive back home and drive to the hotel. And he said, just randomly, he said, I'm sitting there, I order my burger, and I just start laughing because we just won the Big Ten. I can't believe this happened. And he said, and right after I start laughing, he said, I just start bawling. He said, I start crying, just because I'm overcome with the emotion. But I will still say Indiana fans are getting used to this because today, before I went over, stopped by a very nice guy, business guy from Indiana, big fan. It was very, complimentary, enjoys College Game Day. And he said, I just want to ask you a question. He said, in terms of like getting ready for the show, and this was like probably, 3 hours before our show started, and I was about to walk over. And he said, what are you going to do between now and tip-off?
Yeah.
So we're still getting there in terms of being full-fledged football school. It was a slip of the tongue. I get it. But I told him, I said, you've just given me something to say on television tonight, and I'm going to. And so he was very gracious about it. It was pretty funny. And as promised, off the top of the podcast, here is the artist formerly known as Pete Thamel. That's actually now Pete Thamel. The slip of the tongue from Nick Saban on Game Day tonight, which was made great sport of. Pete, you've been working the locker room, a joyous, victorious Indiana locker room. I'm sure. What are the best stories coming out of there?
So I'm going to start with just some images, right? Some visuals of this game, because it's not really like there was a whole lot of schematics and big picture things that matter. Walking in at halftime, I've never seen a sadder band than the Oregon band that was about to go perform. I mean, they just looked totally devastated. Like, it's a long way to go for one halftime show when your team's already down like 100. So I will never forget the sad Oregon band. This one is a little bit more for Dan than for you, Rece, but you'll appreciate it. I was standing watching the Indiana Trophy presentation with our friend Pat Forty, our former pod mate. And Pat is from Louisville. He's lived in Louisville for decades, and he's covered a lot of bad Indiana football. He used to work at the Courier-Journal. He'd scoot up to see the Big Ten team du jour blow out the Hoosiers year after year. So Pat has enjoyed this story a lot. He's written very well on it. So standing there, small talk with Pat, and Sig holds the trophy up over his head. And as we know, Sig famously doesn't wear an undershirt under his pullover, his quarter zip, right? So Pat jams me in the ribs. He's like, look at his guts hanging out. He's holding up the trophy and his guts hanging out. And he's like taking notes furiously. And I was like, color, we'll take it where we can get it. Didn't happen with fourth quarter trauma. So, Yeah, those were two memorable bits of color. I went to the
Was he annoyed because you guys they had to wait on the trophy ceremony because Mendoza was with Ben Pelt and me on the set?
So you just asked, was he
Yeah,
annoyed?
he looked really
I mean, the
annoyed
guy
by
has
this.
resting
Of course
annoyed
he's
face,
annoyed.
Rece.
Yeah.
Like
It looked like this was actual annoyance and not the typical resting annoyed face.
He said he wanted to get
I
a
don't
beer.
know because he Coors Light in his recliner, Dan. You know,
Said he
I mean,
wanted
if
a
anything
beer.
can speak
I
to
was
your
like,
soul.
this is the most
Yeah.
honest thing I've heard all year in college football. Yeah, Molly McGrath,
Yeah.
I think, asked him,
Nope.
what do you, something about next week. He said, I just want to drink a beer. And then Mendoza was like, can we get home in time for closing down in Bloomington? These guys were speaking my language. I know there's nothing going on in Miami.
No, it was
The problem is Miami
Dan's
doesn't have a
favorite
close.
team ever.
There's no closing time. They don't worry about that. They're like, whenever the
Yeah.
jet gets back, Fountain Blue will be going.
Yeah. When we did game day in Miami, I looked around at some point. It's this beautiful morning, Dan. They got like pools and fountains, and I was 18-year-old
campus.
Pete would not have done well here. like need a little more structure there. Maybe the
You barely made it through
maybe
Syracuse, and you had to walk up the hill in the snow.
I know, but at least the bars closed at 2, so at least there was something to keep me on the straight and narrow. You know what I mean? You need.
Yeah.
Yes. Now the government's got to tell me when to go. Tell me when to go home. Dante Moore. So I bounced around a little bit. Went to the Oregon locker room. Went to some breakouts. I was curious what Dante Moore is going to say about his future. Right. It's obviously off-putting to be like, what are you going to do next? 8 minutes after a guy loses. But at the same time, like that decision is big and he has to make it fairly soon. So ask him a question about the process of his decision-making. Before then, he said, I don't know my decision yet. And probably the most interesting part of his press conference, and I'm looking for the quote here, but he basically was like, we looked up and we thought the seats were red, but it was really just all Indiana fans. Like it was hard to overstate, Dan. You obviously watched at home or at your wife's birthday party. This was like an Indiana home game. But like I don't even think an Indiana home game has ever been like this. I mean,
never had that many
2 straight weeks.
Not that big, right?
Yeah. Two straight weeks, they just like took this place over. It is yes, it's a combination of like, oh my God, we're here, Midwestern politeness and some like stumbling drunkenness now in the concourses here as we're in the waning hours, 12:43 a.m. post game. You want a little football, Rece? I have a little football.
Sure. What do you got?
So the pick six, obviously, biggest play of the game, right? So asked a little bit about that. Brian Haynes called it a D'Angelo Pons masterclass. I can see Dan's nodding off already here. So D'Angelo Pons, though he's only 5'9", he's only 5'9". He loves to play press, right? Like he is a vicious, violent hands press defender, and one of the very best cornerbacks in all of college football. To start the game, he played off coverage and essentially baited Dante Moore into it, which is not what he typically does. So the coaches were just like delighted that a veteran corner like him was able to they said it was his best play of the season. Ola Adams, one of the defensive backs coach, said scared money don't make money, but they really, forget the scheme. The ball went there because of the press coverage, but the instincts to go get it, rip it, and go, like that's the stuff that's why you're a 5'9" All-American, right? Because
he knew it was a pass. He was signaling pass to his teammates. So he had scouted it out, or they got the call in, and he just sat there. I watched that, and I said, okay, I think this game's over.
Yes, you could have shut it off. Then it would have been a reasonable a reasonable guess. I thought maybe the most interesting quote about the impact of that play came from Brian Haynes, the defensive coordinator, who said basically they assumed that Dante Moore left the last game seeing ghosts. He got sacked 6 times. He was looking like a little bit jittery, and so he spends the full week of preparation saying we're going to clean this up, we're going to do that, and basically. He thought the impact of doing that right away, just I'm paraphrasing here, but just like brought the ghost right back. You know what I mean? Like you spend all this time trying to fix everything and you immediately give away 6 points and all your problems are there again. And then look, like the ghost returned because the pass rush, I don't know what the sack total was, although I have a stat sheet here that I could find it. It was, the pressure was relentless and they couldn't.
But it didn't
they
come
couldn't
until
pause.
later. I mean, they had a great drive to answer. Dante threw some great balls on that touchdown drive to tie the game at 7.
Sure.
But it was later in the game when that pressure really
Yes.
started to come, it seemed to me. Fascinating
Yes. Nope,
watching the
I
game,
would,
watching that interception beside Saban, and you learn something just by osmosis almost. And he immediately was like, well, he shouldn't have even been looking to that side of the field against that coverage. He should have been working the other side. And, just little things like that guys pick up on, or in the case that you're talking about, D'Angelo tricking him, basically, tricking him, baiting him, however you want to phrase it, into thinking he saw something he didn't. And, and then you have the veteran eyes and the master of the secondary going, well, I don't know why in the world he was looking over there to begin with, but it's
3 sacks by Indiana, 3
Okay.
sacks, but 10 tackles for a loss.
Oof, 10 TFLs. That's
pretty.
It's a lot of
pretty good.
A lot of TFLs. I still can't believe the Jets didn't have an interception this year, by the way. We're clearly in 1 a.m. That's like an ultimate non sequitur, but my God, how does that happen?
So,
yeah,
all right, so I have a question.
One would bounce off a helmet and go right to you at some point.
Yeah.
Just never getting one? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bizarre. Anyway.
I got a
Dan,
question
go ahead.
about this. So you say Dante Moore's got to make a decision, and this is true, and this is where the portal problem is a thing. Because if Oregon needs a quarterback, they got to make a move, right? And there's only so long you can wait. And I'm looking at this with the same thing with Ole Miss, who we haven't really talked about, but Ole Miss played an incredible football game the other day, and their coach quit, but that team never did. They were outmanned, but they were there. But we have a potential injunction. We have a potential lawsuit coming in to see if Trinidad Chambliss can play next year. But they also have DJ Lagway coming in, I think, this weekend. How do these coaches handling this back and forth where it's you've got to, it's not just the guy leaves. You've got to make every minute that your guy hasn't made a decision or you don't have certainty at that level position hurts you with the potential replacement.
No, it's a great question, Dan, and it's obviously a huge juggling act. And Oregon has not been nearly as active at the portal as Indiana. Now, some of that is they have a really young roster and they return a lot of key pieces. We reported tonight on the pregame show that one quarterback name that has emerged at Oregon is Dylan Raiola. Dylan Raiola, since going to the portal, hasn't visited anywhere. Oregon hasn't taken any visitors, and there are signs that there's some mutual interest there between those two. The question, though, is they're going to wait for Dante Moore's decision, which would shift the question for Dylan Raiola to what he do what Dante Moore did, right? Former top recruit, has his struggles, has his moments, sits for a year, learns at Oregon, and then goes on and shines as Dante Moore did. So that is probably how Oregon handles that. Ole Miss is fascinating. They've been linked to Deuce Knight, the former Auburn quarterback, who's a high-end recruit, who I believe is from Mississippi.
He is.
Because he was committed to Notre Dame, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so though they obviously their quarterback room's in a little bit of trouble. But can you give DJ Lagway a bunch of millions if you might end up having to pay Trinidad Chambliss if he goes and gets an injunction? It is some fascinating chess here and some fascinating games of chicken. But my understanding is Ole Miss is very serious about DJ Lagway and would want to move on that. As for the legal thing, Dan, I know you get excited by a good lawsuit and good court case.
Love a good fight.
It would be fascinating, right? I mean, Tom Mars has had plenty of snide jokes about a Mississippi courtroom and who would have the home court advantage between the bureaucrats in Indianapolis and a Mississippi judge. I think we know who'd be a 3 touchdown favorite in that. But here's the question from a calendar standpoint. Is all this upheld and everything like that? Can you risk not going through the draft process if you're Trinidad Chambliss on, account of, all these legal wranglings happening? It's a very difficult road to plow here.
Yeah. I think none of these guys have hired me to offer advice, but that's why we have a podcast. Raiola should go where he's going to play. because he's played a lot already. Lagway could very much benefit from finding a Dante Moore-like situation, like the one he had sitting behind Dylan Gabriel, in my judgment. Now, I know Lagway's played some too, but he's had injuries. His development has been stunted. To me, Raiola's played his way. He needs to find some place where he's the dude and go play. I don't know what maybe some quarterback coach will tell me I'm an idiot. And I know you can always get better. Right? Steve Young sat for a while behind Joe Montana. He's probably ready to play. If I were advising him, I would say, let's find some place where you're going to play. Maybe hopefully a better situation than you had before. Lagway, I would be much more open to that in terms of maybe just kind of getting him settled and getting him right, because he's got tremendous physical skills, and he seems to be, all accounts are that he's a good guy and wants to learn. I think it might help him get a full reset. Raiola, I think he's ready to go. Go find some place to play.
It's interesting, and so the whole bit with Chambliss, they want to, if they go to court, if Tom Mars does decide to go to court, maybe, just maybe, might be aggressive on this, but by going into a state court, it's not a lot of these have been federal. I don't want to get too far down the legal path here, but Jeremy Pruitt, the Tennessee coach, he won an injunction on his he won a preliminary injunction on his 6-year show cause by suing the NCAA in DeKalb County, Alabama court where he lives. And the big fight was over jurisdiction, because the NCAA is like, we're not arguing this in county court in Alabama. What, that one county? And DeKalb is not a very big county. But he says, well, you come in here and recruit athletes out of this county.
Rece, you ever been to DeKalb County?
I have. It's on the opposite end. Well, not the opposite end, but it's across the state from where I grew up. But I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Not a lot of people there, right? So
not a lot.
But he won so far. Now they're going to keep going. But the thing with Chambliss, same thing. Their first thing they're going to do is say, we're not doing this in Mississippi. So it's at federal. We got federal or a national organization, but would that hold up? But then they're going to appeal. So Chambliss is in a really tight spot where it's not even what decision do you want to make, like Dante Moore. Dante Moore is going to make a decision, I imagine, in the next few days. Fine. You're at the mercy of the court system, and a state court, and a complicated legal argument on whether this is even the place to argue this case. And we'll see. I don't know. How that plays out. But you're right. Then does he? And he needs to do really well in the draft process. Dante Moore is going to be a top 5 pick or something like that, top 10 pick, no matter what. But Chambliss is not necessarily there because of his size. So really, really fascinating how these guys juggle this right now, because the entire seasons, at least next season, would be contingent on it.
I want a good Chambliss draft comp I got today. So he's a day 3 guy, right? I've talked to a bunch of scouts. I know he's played well in the playoff and people are infatuated by it, but that is how he is viewed. Now his recent tape is good and that may sway things, but right now he's a day 3 guy. One scout told me today reminds him of Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's a very good quarterback at UCLA, started for 4 years. He was a 5th round pick. He's banged around the league. So that's, do you go fight this? Well, going to be Dorian Thompson-Robinson in the NFL, that's a tough road. Like that's not, getting to the big second contract isn't a guarantee when that's your that's your comp. As for Dante Moore, one scout I talked to today was just like, he should go back. His game is just unpolished. Obviously, you don't want to overreact to one night. He's a talented guy. A couple of scouts said he might have more arm talent than Mendoza, but it's just his game is not refined and polished. Today was his 20th start, and usually that line is 25, where if it's below that, your bust percentage goes way up. So be interesting to see if tonight impacts Moore's thinking.
Yeah, this is not a lot of quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
No.
So they get desperate.
The fan in me wants to see Trinidad Chambliss come back. The wanting the best for others, which I try to do in terms of his opportunity to make really good money, hopes that he is able to come back. But there's also a part of me that says, okay, where are we going to draw the line on this? And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know what the medical issue precisely was and whether it was serious enough and all of that. But and also full disclosure, you're talking to the father of a college athlete who got some extra years because of injuries and because of COVID and all of that. And I had to go through some of this process with my son. Obviously, it was not publicized, like Trinidad Chambliss is going to be or anything like this. But so I have some knowledge of how this goes, and I have a lot of empathy because for guys who've had things go sideways. I don't the whole junior college thing that Pavia and those guys won. I don't really feel a lot. I don't have a lot of empathy for that. But when you have extenuating personal circumstances, whether it be injury or illness or whatever it might be, I can see that. And then the other side of it is just what you said, Pete. While I was wondering who you were going to say the comp was, I almost thought Stetson Bennett, a little bit for Chambliss in some ways. But I think he's going to make a lot more money at Ole Miss than he is likely to make, at least for a while, in the NFL. So I would like for him to be able to do that, because I don't wish ill on people. So it's a little bit of a conundrum. I don't know how it'll turn out, obviously, but I do hope we've got to get to a point where every time somebody wants to play a few more years, they're not having to go to court. That we have some type of agreement, and this is how long you have, and here are the situations that will allow you extra time, and here's what we do. And instead it's like everything in the world. Well, I want to play some more. Okay. I mean, how long has Chad Baker Mazzara been playing college basketball? He's like 37 years old, or I exaggerate slightly, but there are
played
guys,
with Charles Barkley at Auburn, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did. He came in the recruiting class with Chuck, or maybe Chuck Person. I don't remember which. He was right around that era. But what he was at SC, and didn't he run afoul of Musselman because he was having to get his driver's license renewed or something? So,
he's run some fouls, old Chad Baker Mazzara.
Yeah. So, but I mean, my point is, and I'm not trying to pick on Chad. Good for him that he's playing, but we need some type of parameter somehow. It's going to have to be collectively bargained. But this idea of every time, well, let's find old Tom Mars. Let's pull him out of the contact list. Let's have him go sue somebody. He's always up for that. So we'll go.
Yes, he is, Rece. Yes, he is.
We'll go do that
for the little guy, man.
I would like to see it be a little more.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear the quote from Calipari, John Calipari, in December about he's like, I'm going to read it right here. There's a lot of older gentlemen with beards playing basketball in college right now. The one that's crazy, the guy comes in and he's waving to his kids up in the seats. And you're like, wait a minute, the guy's I'm sorry, it's late. The guy's got 2 kids. It's this crazy thing. He's using NIL for his first wife's alimony. Calipari is a riot.
That's pretty funny.
He's a beauty, man.
He deadpanned it. And I think I find this with the aggregators. The aggregators didn't get the joke. I think I think they took it as like, wait, they played somebody's first wife's okay, right?
Yeah.
What a line. Yeah.
Looking in the bio of the media guy to see if he's divorced.
My first wife's alimony is on my
this
NIL.
guard from Little Rock divorced. Is this in the media guide?
It's been a tough life, man. Look, I think we all agree. Like, all right, 2 things can be true. We all want to watch Trinidad Chambliss play football. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
because he's awesome to watch, and he's a great college player. He'll make like $5 million. Plus, he's such a likable guy. Like, he's in that AT&T commercial. He's actually not a bad actor. I mean, the whole thing. He'll make the quote real NIL next year like crazy. Everyone loves Trinidad Chambliss, so we all want that. He needs to sue so his Division II eligibility doesn't count against Division I. But I think we all agree. Like, where are we? Pete knows we used to do this joke on our old pod when they were doing the they used to do the transfer waivers. You'd get immediate eligibility if you could come up with some hardship.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, every kid in the country wanted to transfer, had an uncle on dialysis that he had to go help out every afternoon. It's like they were just inventing family emergencies. And they'd be like, they'd be playing like at Iowa, and they'd be like, I gotta transfer to UCLA because I gotta be near my family. Like, dude, you're from Sacramento. It's not like you're going back there. But the NCAA had to grant them all. Once you get into all these waivers, we need 5 years. You got 5 years. Play the 5, play 1. I don't know. That's what we need. We need something like that. Trinidad's case might be terrific, and he deserves another year. I'd be fine with it. I don't really care, but I think we all agree we do not need NIL paying for alimony.
Yeah.
Are you calling for guardrails, Dan?
That's the guardrail. That's the line in the sand for me. Honestly, that's one of the greatest lines I've ever heard.
Yeah. But you have to remember, I have a friend who is very fond of saying this. Meaning there's always a problem with everything you decide to do. For every mile of road, there's 2 miles of ditch. So there's all kind of different ways, twice the number of problems that you can run into the ditch.
It's a good line.
I feel for all the kids and all that.
These are
the guys, but like at some point, this has to be college. Like we said, the college part is pesky. It gets in the way of a lot of things, but at some point.
He was talking in the office. He was talking about the online classes. So it's way too late to dive into online classes.
Nobody's been ineligible since they invented online classes. That's all I remember.
Yes,
we've not had a great point. There's been an academic ineligibility in a long time. Whatever department that is at the NCAA's like that. What was that old Maytag repairman? He's just sitting there. Best division going at the NCAA. Easiest money. Check the grades.
It's a fascinating thing. So many of these guys, too, not only stay eligible, they get their degrees in 2.5 years. It's really an amazing academic
hell of a
achievement.
summer.
Bastions of academia, I say. Hey, we got a championship game set. Indiana and Miami. Guys, this was fun. We'll talk soon. Thanks for listening to the College Game Day podcast. Download wherever you prefer to get your podcast. And remember, if you are contributing to your favorite school's collective, you're helping someone get out of alimony debt.